Today is the 22nd anniversary of the opening of the most inhumane uh, prison system on the planet, the Guantanamo Bay detention camp located in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, at the Guantanamo Bay Naval Base. It's also known as Gitmo. And um, as of December of this year, there's only 30 prisoners left out of the 779 people that were detained there since January of 2002 when it opened January 11th, January 10th, 2002. 740 of them have been transferred elsewhere. 30 remain and nine had died while in custody. The camp was actually established by President Bush during his administration in the war on terror following the 9/11 attacks, in which indefinite detention without trial led the operations of the camp to be considered a major breach of human rights by groups like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. And what happened over the coming weeks after the 9/11 attacks, and just like a bunch of vultures, it was White House legal counsel, lawyers, that changed the memorandum regarding uh, who is labeled a terrorist and what designates a terrorist. The White House, especially Vice President Dick Cheney, wanted to reformat laws regarding prisoners of war. And one memorandum that stands out for me always as the most important, most damning piece of legislation was written on November 13th, 2001, in which John Yoo, who is one of the White House legal counsel, had sanctioned White House plans to give the Defense Department sole authority to decide which terrorists would be tried in military commissions. Now that's the Department of Justice's job. They investigate crimes of terrorism. But what the White House wanted to do was designate these people as foreign combatants, even though they're foreigners, that they won't be provided or afforded protection under the Geneva Convention. So when you have people like Secretary of State Colin Powell, the National Security Council advisor Condoleezza Rice, and even Attorney General John Ashcroft, they were left out of the loop because what Cheney wanted to do was basically circumvent the memorandum. Now, David Addington, who was Cheney's own personal lawyer, he would later edit the draft, which had to be approved by Bush, to where the White House and not the Defense Department would decide which terrorists would be tried. And now it's left to a sole person, the President of the United States, instead of the Department of Justice. The memo also ignored international law. That's what I was talking about, Geneva Conventions. The memo suggested that President Bush or the future presidents could abide by this or not, or who could be afforded under the protection of the Geneva Convention. Now, this would mean that any foreign nation that the president deems as a nation that harbors terrorists living inside it or having conspired in terrorism could come under attack by the U.S. military. Defendants who are captured would have limited rights to confront even their accusers, such as the military commissions. They would also not be able to see evidence against them, be unable to stand in front of their accusers at trial, instead have a military tribunal hearing, and also be condemned to indefinite detention, which means that there is no fair play or fair justice in a military commission. They make the rules. These rules for the military commission would be dictated on an ad hoc basis by the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, which I wish there was a hell for him to go to. Now, after Bush had left office, President Barack Obama promised that he would close the camp, but he was met with very strong bipartisan opposition from the Congress, even from progressives. And in many ways, Obama was even worse than Bush in certain ways. But we won't talk about that now. Now, what Obama did was he actually passed laws to prohibit detainees from being transferred to the United States. So, in other words, during the Obama administration, there was some influence by the intelligence services, mainly the FBI, to have the people that were charged with the 9/11 attacks, 5 of them at the time. Now there's 4, but we'll get to that in a minute. 5 at the time. That they wanted to be tried at the Southern District of New York, which would have been the right thing to do because there was no trial. And these men were held in Guantanamo for 14 years up to this point, right? What happened was Obama said, well, no, I'm going to circumvent this memorandum, stating that now, if they're in Guantanamo, that's where they stay. But under Obama, we saw a decrease in detainees. Obama inherited 250 prisoners, which went down to 41 when he left office. And then you had Donald Trump, who was going to be this, the guy who's against the establishment. No, he's not. When you're a president, you're not against the establishment. You may be defiant in certain areas, but you're not against the establishment. The establishment is many vectors, many sectors, right? Many arms at play. It's not one corporation, not one, it's many, dozens of corporations. Banking industry, jail industry, oil industry, yeah, IRS, you have Federal Reserve, come on. The intelligence services, all right? A lot of corporations. So what happened was in January 2018, Trump actually signed an executive order, not a memorandum, executive order to keep Guantanamo Bay Prison indefinitely open. Thanks. So when Biden took office, he declared his intention to close the facility before he leaves office. Okay, we are in the election year. Guantanamo is still open. Do you finally get it? Do you understand that these people in positions of the presidency cannot be trusted? Well, I don't know why you people vote for them. But like previous administrations, at least Biden let go of 10 prisoners, which now leaves it to 30. And I'm going to read you these names because I think they should be represented. Now, whether they're guilty or not, I don't know, because almost all these people were tortured. So even if they were telling the truth about what crimes they committed, can you believe it? You're left in a state of paralysis. You don't know what to believe. So right now, these are prisoners held in law of war detention, but they can be recommended for transfer if the security measures are met under a military tribunal hearing. Okay, and there are currently 16 prisoners that fit this description, and they're like this. Khalid Ahmed Qasim from Yemen. He was captured in 2002. Uthman Abd al-Rahim Mohammed Uthman, Yemeni, captured in 2002. Moaz Hamza Ahmed Alwi, also known as Moaz al-Said, Yemeni, captured in 2002. Rida bin Salam bin Marouk al-Yazidi, Tunisia, captured in 2002. Omar al-Farouk, stateless, captured in 2002. Suhaya Abdul Aman al-Sharabi, Yemeni, captured in 2002. Ismail al-Faraj al-Bakush, also known as Abu al-Dahab al-Kamani, Libyan, captured in 2002. Saeed Salah Saeed Nashir, Yemeni, captured in 2002. Tolfaq Nasser Ahmed al-Balani, a Yemeni, captured in 2003. Omar Muhammad Ali al-Rahman, also known as Zakaria al-Badini, a Yemeni, captured in 2003. Samad al-Islam al-Kazini, also known as Abu Malik, Yemeni, captured in 2004. Hassan Muhammad Salah bin Atash, also known as Hassan al-Dini, Yemeni, captured in 2004. Sharkawi Abdul Ali al-Hajj, also known as Riyadh the Facilitator, Yemeni, captured in 2004. Abd al-Salam al-Hillah, Yemeni, captured in 2004. Guled Hassan Duran, Somali, captured in 2006. Finally, Muhammad Abdul Malik Bajuba, Kenyan, captured in 2007. Now, there are 3 prisoners who are held indefinitely and not recommended for transfer. These are people that are held without trial, without charge, and labeled too dangerous to be released. And these 3 people are Zayn al-Abini, Mohammed Hussein, also known as the infamous Abu Zubaydah, a Palestinian who was captured in 2006. Allegedly, this was the first al-Qaeda prisoner ever captured. But also in 2006, the CIA had admitted in Abu Zubaydah's own military tribunal hearing that after torturing him for a number of years, 3, I think, he was considered not al-Qaeda, but not even a fighter. Yet he was part of the Al-Farouk training camp, I want to say. And, you know, he's a big case. And this guy was brutally tortured. Now, the FBI, especially Ali Soufan, and I forgot the other agent that was with him, had interviewed Abu Zubaydah, but then the CIA heard about this and basically pressured George Bush to release Zubaydah to the CIA. And when they, I'm sorry, not the Al Farouk training camp. He was an alleged trainer at the Kaldeen training camp. Kaldeen training camp is not an Al Qaeda camp. It was actually closed by the Taliban because there was a matter of discussion of whether Kaldeen catered to Al Qaeda or to Mujahideen in general. It was actually originally described as an Al Qaeda camp with a connection to Al Qaeda, which was actually used as the justification for holding Zubaydah. But this has come under scrutiny from multiple sources. I'm reading one. I read one before with Ann Sterenson, Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, and Mustafa Hamid in Arabs at War. 2 awesome books. I can't recommend any further. They're just great. And they're historically accurate. They're coming from primary source material, which is Al Qaeda's own Tariq and Osama documents. The camp shut down in summer of 2001 with ideological divisions within Al Qaeda and the Taliban. And so the camp was closed down. So it was not linked to Al Qaeda. And Abu Zubaydah was tortured brutally for it. He wrote some memoirs in which I downloaded, and you can ascertain those at archive.org. Another person who's held in indefinite detention is Mustafa Faraj Mohammed Masood al-Jazid al-Uzaybi, also known as Abu Faraj al-Libi, a Libyan captured in 2006. An interesting case, al-Libi, another one brutally tortured by the CIA, having been held in CIA black sites just like Abu Zubaydah. And according to the U.S. Office of the Director of National Intelligence, he served as the 3rd in command of al-Qaeda from 2003 after Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was captured, and then captured in 2005. Abu Zubaydah was actually found not to, I said that he was not found to be within Al-Qaeda. But yeah, this is the case. I mean, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Ramzi bin al-Shib, Abu Zubaydah, and a number of others, they're all captured in Pakistan. That's where all these people are. It just makes you wonder what type of protections these people were getting beforehand. Yet we deal with Pakistan all the time. I don't know. And the third indefinite detention detainee is Muhammad Rahim. Muhammad Rahim was captured in 2008 in Afghanistan. And Muhammad Rahim is, he was born in Afghanistan. And it is stated that he was captured by, captured in Pakistan, handed over to the CIA. And Rahim had connections, alleged connections with the Taliban. And he was subjected to, again, the rendition, detention interrogation program known as the RDI program, and handed over to the CIA to be brutally tortured under the enhanced interrogation techniques. That's a fancy word for torture, which was the SEER program headed by two ghouls, Bruce Jessen and James Mitchell, who would go on to say that they would actually do it all over again because they kept America safe. Well, that's not what, according to the Senate Select Committee report, the final report, also known as the report, which was a film that starred Adam Driver, which was a fantastic film, and basically showed that none of the information that the CIA got from torture actually prevented or was anything new. Prevented any future terrorism, or was new to the intelligence services or even the State Department or to the principals. This was information that was known, previously known, even in the 9/11 congressional inquiries, which I'm covering. Now, for the final 10, these are people charged in military commission system, awaiting trial, mind you. And these are people that you have heard. Mustafa Ahmed Adam al-Hassawi, who was captured and brought to Gitmo in 2006. Now, when I say captured, I meant to say brought to Guantanamo in 2006. So I made a mistake. So I mentioned captured, all those years. Those are brought to Guantanamo. Okay, brought to Guantanamo. So here we have al-Hassawi, who's part of the 9/11 as I call them, the 5 people charged for facilitating, providing logistical support, financial support, and plotting the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. Al-Hassawi, his torture was unique in its brutality, in that it makes you wonder, what was the point of it? So Hassawi has intestinal problems. And when I say intestinal problems, he was raped by a grooming device. Some say it was metal shaving like Brillo pads shoved up his rectum, where he has to sit on a pillow or something very soft for the rest of his life. And you have to wonder, imagine CIA case officers or military personnel dressed in black or wearing masks doing this to this person. At some point, it has to enter that person's mind that what they're doing is grotesque. Never mind that what they're doing is counterproductive in regards to obtaining information. Because when you're getting that inserted in your rectum, you're going to say that you committed every crime from here to Timbuktu in the last 20 years. Just for them to stop. Another person is Ramzi Muhammad Abdullah bin al-Shib, also known as Abu Ubaidah, also known as, by his shorter name, Ramzi bin al-Shib. Now, he was part of the Guantanamo Five charged with providing logistical support. But earlier this year, he was deemed unfit, mentally unfit to stand trial. So that means he will not be able to stand trial for the charges of providing any type of material support or planning the 9/11 attacks. That's why I said earlier, it's 4 now. Yes, it's no longer 5, it's now 4. because al-Shib was, well, if he's mentally incompetent, so are the other five, because they received just amount of brutal torture. He was waterboarded, I think, 83 times. 83 times. The other person, number 3, is Walid Muhammad Salih bin Mubarak bin Atash. For those who know his last name, he also goes by the name of Khalad, the infamous Khalad. Captured and brought to Gitmo. He was captured, I think, in 2003 and brought to Gitmo in 2006. He's a Yemeni. Boy, what can I say about bin Khalad? The NSA knew about him first because they were listening to the phone calls that they were tapping from the Al-Qaeda communications hub in Yemen. This information was not passed to the CIA. Allegedly being involved with the East Africa embassy bombings and, of course, the USS Cole bombing, and providing material support to several of the hijackers involved with the 9/11 attacks. He also acted as a bodyguard for Osama bin Laden. This guy has a history. Now, how can we charge him? He was brutally tortured. You can't. That's why we're never going to see a trial for any of these people, because they're walking. And that would be the biggest slap in the face that we could ever receive, especially for the victims' families and loved ones. Another prisoner is Abid al-Rahim Hussein Muhammad Abdullah al-Nashiri, also known as Abu Bilal al-Maki, a Saudi Arabian who was brought to Gitmo in 2006. Now, al-Nashiri is an interesting case because he's allegedly to have headed al-Qaeda's operations in the Persian Gulf. And he was captured by the CIA Special Activities Division in 2002. Again, much like most of these high-profile prisoners, he went through the black sites, and he went to, just like Abu Zubaydah, Poland, Lithuania, Romania, Morocco, waterboarded, punched in the face, rectal feeding, standing naked for days on end, chained to the walls and to the floors, threatened with a power drill. In fact, al-Nashiri was granted victim status in 2000 by Polish government because a prosecutor there who began investigating the abuse of al-Nashiri suggested that Polish public officials with regard to the case should charge the CIA personnel at this black site for what they did to him in 2008. However, he was still charged by the Guantanamo military commissions in December of 2008, but the charges were dropped in February 2009, but they were reinstated 2 years later. But they don't want to release him either. Another person is Ali Abdul Aziz Ali, also known as Omar al-Baluchi, the nephew, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. He's charged as one of the Guantanamo 5, now 4, for providing logistical and financial support to a number of the 9/11 hijackers. Another prisoner is Ensap Nujamin, also known as Ridwan Isamuddin, also known as Hambali, the bin Laden of Indonesia. He is part of the terrorist organization Jemaah Islamiyah, which is an Indonesian terrorist organization. He is alleged to have participated at some level in the 2002 Bali nightclub bombings, which was the second largest terrorist attack in the world after 9/11. Many people don't bring this up, but 202 people died at this bombing. It was two trucks that had bombs, and he's alleged to have been a participant in this, as well as other bombing campaigns in Christian churches in Indonesia and the Philippines. But I wrote a lengthy article about him because I find him to be interesting. I've been studying him for a couple of years now, and Again, CIA black sites, tortured, don't know what is true and what is not. Um, he was actually, according to the U.S. government, on August 11, 2003, he was in 3 years in isolation, interrogation, torture, and CIA black sites. 3 years. Um, his torture is actually classified by the United States government. In fact, President Bush, even because his capture was so big, because he's a big name, um, President Bush even announced his capture at a White House press briefing. There's only a limited amount of information describing his torture, which have been released to the public or to investigators. One of those reports went to the International Committee of the Red Cross. And according to the 2014 Senate Intelligence Committee report, Hambali was told by an interrogator that he would never go to court. And this is a direct quote that's in the report that I'm currently uploading. Quote, "We can never let the world know what we have done to you," end quote. You see where this is going, right? Another prisoner is Mohammed Farik bin Amin Zubair. He was a Malaysian captured in 2006. I don't know too much about him, but I know he's an associate of Hambali and Jem Islamiyah group. Another prisoner is Mohammed Nazir bin Lep, another member of Jem Islamiyah. Nashwan Abdul Razak Abdul Baki al Tamir, also known as Abid al Hadi al Iraqi. He's a rare case. He's actually an Iraqi national, and as a member of Al Qaeda, the media committee. And he was arrested. And finally, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, also known as Mukhtar. What can be said about this guy? The financier, the alleged mastermind of the 9/11 attacks, which I think he did. And he got that idea from the Bajinka plot. I've been saying this for years. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is an interesting case. He's also the most interesting figure, the most mysterious figure. Here's a guy who in the mid 90s actually traveled around the world while the FBI was chasing him for being part of the 1993 World Trade Center attack because he sent a wire transfer to one of the 1993 World Trade Center bombers, Mohammed Salame, a $5,000 check. An FBI agent named Frank Pellegrino went around the world to try and capture him, bring him back, face justice. And Khalid Sheikh Mohammed actually visited a number of countries: Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, even Israel. That's not me saying that, that's a New York Times report. Interesting. Nevertheless, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is the alleged mastermind 9/11 attacks, as well as 60-something other terrorist attacks, because much like everybody else, he was tortured. In fact, he was waterboarded 164 times or 163 times in a single month. That's double what Ramzi bin al-Shibh got. This guy confessed to everything. In fact, CNN would later write a long, detailed report about what he confessed to. And I'm surprised he didn't confess to the assassination of Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. This guy confessed to every single operation where when you read it, you're like, this guy just confessed so that the torture could stop. But the CIA claims that, yeah, we got the biggest terrorist in the world outside of bin Laden. And he's a bigger terrorist than bin Laden, this guy. Heck, he didn't even need to be tortured to basically tell you that he did plot 9/11, because that's what he did when he was interviewed along with Ramzi bin al-Shibh in a safe house in Pakistan to Al Jazeera reporter Yosri Fuda. Now, I've interviewed his co-author for the book Masterminds of Terror, Nick Fielding, where they talked about Yosri Fuda being called by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed at his London office to come and interview him at a safe house in Karachi, Pakistan, in which he did. This is before he got caught, and he admitted that he was part of 9/11. Nevertheless, now that he's tortured, no matter if he was telling the truth, we can't take it face value, because he said it while he was tortured. Now, according to Yoshi Fuda, there's videotape of this. The CIA has it. Okay? Why not use it at a trial? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and any evidence linking him to it, 9/11 attacks, has to be dismissed. Because the government's going to have to say that the torture was justified. And they can't. They can't. And this is the problem. The only person who was convicted in a military commission system after all these years was Ali Hamza Ahmed Suleiman al-Bahul, also known as Abu Anas al-Maki, a Yemeni captured in 2002. He's the only one that was convicted. I forgot what he was convicted for, but if you want to know a little bit more, I'm going to link the Guantanamo Docket by Carol Rosenberg at the bottom of the description. And there's your list of prisoners at Guantanamo Bay prison camp currently. And look, we need justice. That's what I'm in this for. Nothing else. And as long as everybody remains silent about it, most people certainly are, there are a few people that are trying to bring attention to light, including the closure of Guantanamo Bay Prison. And this is a video that I'm going to dedicate to actually imploring the Biden administration to please close Guantanamo Bay Prison. Have these people deported to New York, especially the Guantanamo Five. Have the others tried at a court of their home countries regarding the charges of whatever terrorist plots you think they were a part of. But these indefinite detention prisoners, well, they didn't get a trial. They're not charged with anything, but they're held there forever. If you don't think that that's injustice, I don't know what to tell you. And just because they're Arabs and some of these people may be guilty of certain crimes, well, we don't know because there's no trial and there's no evidence being presented by the federal government. So we have to presume they're innocent, right? Isn't that what justice is all about? Yeah, I think so. So we owe it to the victims' families. We owe it to their loved ones to bring these four, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Tawfiq bin Attash, Abdulaziz Ali, Amar Abaluchi, and not Ramzi bin Ashib, he's let go, but Mustafa al-Hassawi. So these four we had to start getting this trial ready. But the government knows they can't. They can't. You know, I've interviewed two former prisoners on the podcast, The Darkened Hour, Mohamedou Ould Slahi, who wrote the Guantanamo Diary, and Mansour Adaifi, who wrote the book, Don't Forget Us Here. And those are probably two of my most personally wrought interviews I've ever done because of the torture that they went through and the humble nature of these two men and what they mean for all the detainees basically there, whether you want to think they're guilty or innocent, they have a right to trial. They have a right to face their accusers. And we're not doing it. And we have to question why. What's the holdup? All right, guys, that's the end of this video. I just want to bring attention to what's going on in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And let's please get enough voices, get enough momentum to force the closure of this inhumane prison camp in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.